It's not easy moving to an entirely new country, trying to get into a new healthcare system, and then wondering, well, how do you fit in? So we thought we'd compile a list of tips, things that can help you adjust to your new life in the NHS.
If this is the first time you're checking out our channel, welcome. Basically what we do is we run a website that's totally free known as roadtok.com, and it will explain the ins and outs about everything related to the United Kingdom and what it takes for you to work as a doctor in the NHS. So if you've not already, please stalk us on all of our social media. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe.
Hey guys, my name's Ibreez and I currently work as a doctor in the NHS. So, 10 tips. 10 tips I think are enough. Now, you might be like, oh, Ibreez, come on, 20 tips, 25 tips, 100 tips. We need a ton of tips. We need to know all the things. But honestly, we've condensed them to these 10 and it'll be more than enough. So let's start with the first tip. It's pretty obvious. Ask for help. I think as an international doctor, we sometimes get a little reluctant to ask for help because we're thinking, if I have to ask for help, that means somebody's going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And if they think that I don't know what I'm doing, well, maybe they'll think that I'm not good enough for this job. And that's like the most ridiculous thing to think. If you need help, ask for it. Seriously, out there in the world, who was born knowing everything? No one. So if you don't know how to do something, even if you understand conceptually what you need to be doing, but maybe the mechanism by which they do it in the NHS is different, or perhaps the things that they use are a little bit different than what you're used to doing, ask for help. See one, do one. That's enough. It's totally fine if you need help. So following up from that is our second tip. Know your limits. Now what I mean by that is, fine, we just talked about asking for help, but see, an important part of asking for help is actually knowing your limits. Like, yeah, fine, you know how to do a lumbar puncture, but have you actually done a lumbar puncture in the United Kingdom? Have you done one with some of the tools that they utilize in the NHS? Is there something actually that you need to learn again? Other parts of knowing your limits are, maybe you're like, okay, that's fine, I've understood how to manage this patient, but they're actually deteriorating much quicker than I anticipated, and I think I need individuals to come aid me. So you can put out a medical emergency, or maybe you speak to your registrar, maybe you speak to your consultant. You've understood the limitation of your help, and you've understood the importance of getting other people involved. Knowing your limits doesn't mean you are not good enough. It means you've understood, this is my capacity, this is what I can do. And it's not just about maybe you're in a difficult situation because you're in the deep end of the pool because you don't know what to do. It could be that you have a lot on your plate. You've got to manage a lot of patients, and you need to ask someone if they can help you out and maybe see a couple of patients for you, do a couple of jobs for you, equal distribution of the work so that everyone can go home on time. The third tip is something that you should be doing pretty much when you are done with your interview. So at the very end of your interview, when they ask, hey now, do you have any questions about this post? You should definitely ask if they're going to offer some form of a shadowing period or some type of supernumerary work where maybe for the first 2 weeks or maybe for the first month, you're either following someone or they put you in a situation where you don't have to do any on-calls, and then you shadow on-calls until you feel comfortable, and then you're going to be put on the complete rota. This way, you have a gradual introduction into the new healthcare system, and you don't have to freak out and say, oh my gosh, it's my first day in this job, and I'm on call, or I have to do a night shift, or I have to do this, I have to do that. Ask for it. Explain why it's important. Explain why it's important for patient safety as well, and of course for your own well-being, and you shouldn't have any issues. The fourth tip, take your breaks. Alright? Look at your contract. It's gonna tell you how often you should be taking breaks. There's so many articles we've written about it, but basically, look, every 4 hours or so you should be trying to take a break. It doesn't mean, oh, well, it's been exactly 4 hours and this patient's really unwell. Sorry guys, I have to go on my break now. No, of course not. Take your breaks in a measured amount of time. If there's a moment for you to wrap up something and then you can grab some lunch, or maybe you just want to sit somewhere and have a cup of coffee, by all means. Whatever you do on your break, it's your business. If you feel like you're just gonna go sit here and do nothing, if you feel like you have some religious obligations to get to, by all means, go do what you have to do. Just let somebody on the ward know that, like, hey, listen, John, I'm gonna go take a break for about half an hour. I'll be right back. If you need anything, let me know. Here's my bleep. Okay? More often than not, somebody will be on the ward while you're off the ward if it's during the daytime, so you don't have to necessarily worry about something catastrophic occurring while you're off having your break. If it's an on-call or overnight shift, most of the wards, or pretty much all the wards that you'll be covering, will have your contact information, so you set up how you will utilize your break. If your hospital has a system within which you're using a handset that you can say, I'm on my break now, most hospitals, or at least the hospital at night, tend not to disturb you, and they wait until you say, I'm off my break now, and then they give you the jobs, unless there's an emergency. Obviously, guys, if there's some sort of a medical emergency and you're part of the crash team and you're on your break, you go to the emergency and then you have your break after the fact. But the important thing about breaks are you take a second to relax, you get hydrated, you realize, oh, actually I haven't had any water all day today, I haven't eaten anything today. Have a chance to just sit down and unwind. It's really important that you do this so that you don't overwork yourself and you don't get stressed out about what you're doing. So make sure not only are you taking your break, but those around you are also having their breaks. The fifth tip is related to you making sure you have an indemnity coverage or some sort of link up with a trade union. Ideally, you should have both, but if you're like, I actually want one more than the other, Ibreez, advise me. I would say indemnity coverage is really important. Now let me explain what these mean. Indemnity coverage is your insurance. It's your coverage to say, if somebody says, oh, actually you did this wrong and we have a complaint that we want to make, your indemnity steps in and says, hold on, we're going to deal with this. Now, a lot of you might be like, well, when I joined the hospital, they said that they would cover me. Yes, that's called the Crown Indemnity. That's the hospital saying, all right, fine, we'll cover you for whatever happens. But it's always important for you to have your own coverage as well, because, well, let's be real, the hospital's going to take care of the hospital. Yeah, sure, I'm sure they'll take care of you as well, but it's really important for you to have your own cover in the background to help you out. The reason why you need to have indemnity as well is if, God forbid, something does happen, you getting your indemnity after the fact, it's not going to mean anything. None of them will look back and say, okay, that happened, but you aren't covered and we'll fix you up now. No, you need to be covered when everything or anything actually does occur. So shop around, see what you're offered, see what they're charging for whatever amount, maybe every month or every year, and find which coverage works best for you. It's really, really important to have an indemnity coverage. We have an article about it that I'm going to link in the description box, but please do not neglect your indemnity coverage. Now, coming on to trade unions. So there are a lot of trade unions out there as well. Shop around, see what you want and see what you're happy with. You might even be able to find a discount if it's something that you've signed up for the first time or something like that, or maybe if you guys are a married couple and you can get a discount on the basis of having a spouse who's also in the same trade union. The importance of the trade union is if you have any concerns about your employment, maybe you don't understand how your contract works, or you're unclear about if the working hours you're working is actually meeting the contractual requirements for your nation, so be it England, Wales, Northern Ireland, or Scotland, that's where your trade union comes in. Now, people can argue and say a trade union is not necessarily as important. You could probably still figure all that out by yourself. Yes, they can offer support, but you could still manage it on your own. But definitely have indemnity coverage. The sixth tip, stick to your working hours. Now, what I mean by this is you will get a rota. The roster on there will say, all right, you're supposed to be at work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So when will you come into work? You will be at work at 9 a.m. And when will you try and leave work? You will try and leave at 5 p.m. Yes, there might be the occasional day where you stay a little late. That's when you can at least, let someone know that, look, I had to stay late last night. We need to figure out what we have to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. If you have the provision to, you can put it in the exception report and they can understand maybe it was because of low staffing, maybe it was an increased workload, or they need to fix something, and that's why you had to stay late. You don't get brownie points if you come in an hour or two early or you stay an hour or two late. It's actually pretty unsafe. They are very strict in the United Kingdom about you maintaining your working hours because they know the importance of ensuring that you have enough time off in between as a rest period. So for instance, if you know that you're going to be working from whatever day from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., there needs to be a certain amount of time that you have rest in between before you can come back to work in the morning. So in that situation, you should be coming to work at 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. You haven't had that time off in between. If you have any concerns about actually, am I working the right hours or are my hours safe, contact your guardian of safe working hours if your hospital or your area has something like this. Or if you're unsure, you can raise it through your trade union or through a Freedom to Speak Up guardian if those also exist in your area. Now, the other important things about the working hours are you need to know what your stipulated time is. If you are staying longer than you need to on a consistent basis, you need to also reflect into yourself that is it actually that I'm not able to maintain what I need to do because I'm not understanding how to wrap up? Is it there's some extra work that needs to be done and I need to actually raise to someone that one person can't do all of these things? Or is there a bigger picture that needs to be taken into consideration, and how can I go about fixing it? Don't be scared to say, actually, I'm not maintaining my work hours appropriately. It's really important that you know your rights. It's really important that you understand what you shouldn't be doing. And remember, do not come in early and stay late thinking that that's what's going to get me into a training post, or that's what's going to curry favor with the consultants or the team. That's not how it works. You need to come in when you're supposed to come in, and you leave when you're supposed to leave, and that's the way it works. The 7th tip, know how to raise concerns. I've already talked a little bit about this, but it is a very important thing to remember, guys. If you feel that you're not working the hours that you need to be working, you're being asked to work more than you should be, if you're being asked to do something that you're not contractually obligated to do, you need to tell someone. It might be your educational supervisor, your clinical supervisor, freedom to speak up guardian, your trade union, your indemnity coverage, a consultant, your line manager, whoever is your next port of call for whatever the issue is, speak to them. If you're unsure, the Freedom to Speak Up Guardian is a really good place to start, and they can kind of point you in the right direction. But remember, if you don't know what you have to do next, but you think that there's something that shouldn't be happening that is happening, you have the right to raise the concern. International doctors, I get it. We don't want to rock the boat. We're new to the country. We're new to the system. We don't want anyone to think that we're there to stir up trouble, but that's not what you're doing. You're just making sure you're getting what's right for you and what you're supposed to be doing. So make sure you know if there's any concern that you have, how you can go about raising that concern. The 8th tip, take relevant courses. Look, yes, you're going to be doing your BLS, your ILS, your ALS, your ATLS, whatever. But beyond that, there are a lot of courses available. You can see locally within your hospital, you can see through your Royal College, you can see just maybe through Max courses if your hospital offers that. What other courses there are that you can utilize to not only build your portfolio, but actually improve your work as a doctor. So maybe you're not too good at ABGs and you want to do a course on that. Maybe you want to improve your communication skills or how you do a handover. Find a course that's appropriate. See if it's covered by your study budget, and then go about, applying for it and getting it covered, and you're set to go. Even if it's not, but you feel like actually this is going to be a really important, course for me to do, or something that I can really learn a lot from, I would go ahead and do it. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if I really need to do this, or if it's a good idea, or if it's a bad idea, see what the course is about. Email them, ask them, look, this is what I'm hoping to get out of this course. Is this an appropriate course for me? Maybe your postgraduate medical education center can recommend some courses for you if you're thinking, all right, I actually don't know what I need to improve on. So take advantage of the fact that you're in a place where you can do a lot of things. And they might be online courses, they might be in face-to-face courses, but the opportunity there for you to meet a lot of people who maybe even in the same position as you, it really opens up the doors for you to know what more you can do to better yourself. Tip number 9, know how to hand over. Now, handing over is probably a foreign concept for a lot of us because, we expect to stay and do everything until everything's done and then we go home. But as I already said before, you need to maintain your working hours, so when the day is done for you, there's going to be an on-call team, somebody who's going to be covering the ward or perhaps doing the night shift, and you're going to hand over the important tasks to them. What I mean by the important tasks are things that must be done that evening or overnight, things that cannot wait. Perhaps it's a cannula or some bloods to be checked. Maybe it's a scan. Maybe it's making sure this medication is run through and then checking again if the patient needs it to continue, or a fluid balance or something like that. Whatever it is, follow SBAR. SBAR is the easiest way for you to understand what relevant information you need to let your colleague know so that they know what they have to do. Now remember, handover doesn't mean, well, I couldn't get through all these jobs today, so I'm just going to give all the mundane ward tasks to the on-call doctor. No. It is the stuff that must get done, like stuff that you can action. So for instance, if somebody at 4:55 fell on your ward and they hit their head and they're on a blood thinner and you've just requested a scan and you've made sure that scan of their head is going to happen in the next hour or so, you need to hand that over so that the person on call can keep an eye out for that scan and they have something actionable they can do. Maybe they need to speak to neurosurgeons, maybe they need to do something else. Whatever it is, they need to make sure the scan is done and the report is seen. Things that would quantify as not so important. If you took a routine set of bloods where you aren't actually particularly perturbed about this individual, it's just a once weekly set of bloods that you're doing for whatever reason, Does it really need seeing by the on-call team or the overnight team? Is there anything that you would action from it? That's something that you have to weigh. Remember, the importance of handing over is, like I said before, handing over relevant things, not handing over everything. If you're like, well, if I don't hand over everything, that means I have to stay late, you've got to, again, look at yourself in terms of prioritization. Or is it down to the fact that the ward was understaffed? And then, like we said already, make sure you raise those to the right channels. And the last tip, tip number 10, don't worry. All right? In the immortal words of Bobby McFerrin, don't worry, be happy. Honestly, you might be like, Ibreez, that's really easy for you to say, you know, you've been working in the UK forever now. Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean when I started working I wasn't freaking out just the same as many of you might be, or I think you're gonna be in the next couple of weeks, months, or whatever amount of time it'll take you to come to the NHS. So what I mean by that is, when you're done with the ward for the day, you go home, you disconnect. You don't think about, oh man, what about that patient in bed 2, or that guy in bed 4. No, you've done what you've had to do. You've handed over the important stuff to your colleague who's going to be on call on the night shift or whatever, and that's it. You go home. If you bring all of that home with you, you're never going to be able to relax, and you're going to be stressing yourself out unnecessarily. Now, if you do think to yourself, actually, oh my gosh, I totally needed to mention about this scan or that thing, and I definitely know I needed to mention it and I forgot. You don't have to rush back to the hospital. You can call through your hospital switchboard and be like, okay, I know there's somebody who's going to be covering my ward. Can you please put me through to that individual? And then let them know, like, hey man, listen, I forgot to tell you that I need you to also double check that the, the dig level will come back for Mr. So-and-so at this time. Can you please look at it and then action whatever needs to be actioned? So don't take work home with you. It's not good for you. It's not good for your colleagues. It's not good for your patients, because you're just going to burn yourself out. It's not going to be something that's beneficial to you in the slightest. The other thing is, we all have different amounts of time that it'll take us to adjust. You might be looking at your friends who've come with you and you're like, they seem like they've adjusted so quickly and it's taking me a really long time. I'm pretty sure they're thinking the same thing about you. There is a lot of that fake it until you make it / the imposter syndrome thing that we think to ourselves, actually, I'm not good enough, or I should just, grin and bear it, and I'll get to a point where I know exactly what's going to... Look, guys, I've been here like 4 years. I sometimes still don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just kind of like, oh, dang, they expect me to do stuff, and I have a lot of responsibilities, and what if I don't, meet up to what their expectations are? It's okay. Like, again, don't stress yourself out. We're all there. If you go through the first 9 tips, I'm sure you'll realize you're going to be able to see what you need to do and figure out how you have to approach the problem. Our job is not an easy job. Our job is a changing job. There are things that are always going to crop up and be new. The important parts of this is that we are flexible and we adapt to that change, and we maintain our knowledge of what's happening along the way. So don't think to yourself that, all right, that's it, I just don't know how to do this, I'm going to give it up, pack up, I'm going to go home, this was a terrible idea. Of course not. Give yourself at least 3 to 6 months to fully adjust. And you know what? When you change hospitals, it might happen all over again. If you move to a new area, you move to a new department. So don't think it all kind of goes away. It definitely happens throughout your career. Maybe you're going from an SHO to a reg, even to a consultant later on. Don't think it ever gets easy. I think what gets easier is you knowing yourself and you knowing what you have to do to help yourself adjust. But of course, with new things, it's going to take a little bit of time. So let yourself take that time and relax. So there are my top 10 tips. If there's a tip that you guys have used or you think is really useful that I haven't mentioned, by all means, comment it down below. But like I said, the takeaway from all of this is just live your best life. Find out how you can do whatever you need to do. Ask for help when you need it, and roll with the punches. Having said that, however, don't roll with the punches if you know you shouldn't be, dealing with anything that they asked you to do. Know your rights, know what your contract says, and go about doing what you love most, which is being a doctor. Until next time, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We have a newsletter. Check out our newsletter. We have an awesome forum where you can find other people just like you. So check out all those things, and we'll see you next time. Bye.